Welcome back to the 2H Media stream. We are covering more breaking tech news. Some of it's breaking, some of it's a little older at this point, but that's what happens with a once-a-month stream.
Yeah.
We're
doing some fun stuff.
Got a great streaming doc lined up today, though.
I'm excited for it. And a recent addition, like a last-minute recent addition that we just added based on something very recent, which is cool. We'll finish that off. We'll finish off with that one.
So we're going to talk today about how television advertising lost its relevance, changes in video game ad spend becoming a big deal in the advertising space, Google's AI overview continuing to prove that AI is not all that. It's not there. We're going to talk a little bit about intersection of government and technology with the Canadian government ordering dissolution of some companies. And then probably the biggest story we're going to end on is the biggest findings in Google's search leak, because there was a bunch of internal Google documents that got leaked really recently and are turning the world of search engine optimization upside down.
Always a fun topic here.
Yeah. Well, and it dovetails nicely with the search engine optimization videos that we've got coming out in our Nurture series.
Yeah.
So
we just had Christina in to do a whole bunch of work on that, and I don't think there's too much conflicting information there, but it's kind of a black hole with Google in terms of what they tell you, and
there won't be any conflicting information between the leak and the what the information we shared with Christina. I mean, there's going to be, if anything, this reinforces the need to have an SEO expert in your court. But we'll circle back to that when we actually get to that topic. So right away, let's kick us off with
television.
How television advertising lost its relevance. And I'm going to hope that this displays what it's supposed to.
It does.
Excellent.
I see it.
I wasn't sure if the camera would line up. Every time we do these, I have to reconnect all of the inputs to the right sources. And it just worked this time, which is great. So, how television advertising lost its relevance. When Mondelez, and I'm probably pronouncing that wrong.
I think you
When Mondelez sought to promote a limited edition of its Oreo cookie earlier this year, it did something that would have been unthinkable not that long ago. It didn't spend a dime on advertising on TV. The snack company had a simple reason for that decision. The people it was looking to reach, Gen Z members, multicultural audiences, and households with children, aren't watching enough television. The maker of Ritz crackers and Sour Patch Kids candy is spending about 15% of its U.S. ad budget on TV this year, down from 42% 3 years ago. Halverson said an additional 9% is going to streaming, meaning that more than 3/4 of its ad spending will go elsewhere. To promote its new Oreo Space Dunk, Mondelez turned to social media sites such as Instagram and TikTok. Halverson said, it also relied heavily on ads that appear where people are already shopping, the websites of large retailers, including Amazon and Walmart. And this article came from the Wall Street Journal.
So, first off, I love Oreos. Take a look at me. Oreos are top 3 favorite cookie. So
I think the amount of product placement in this article is hilarious. Before we get into any of the actual discussion topics, and then the first thing you jump into is, I love Oreos. Oreo cookies are great. I eat them. You should eat them too.
I have no idea what an Oreo Space Dunk is.
I have no idea.
But I had to say that about Oreos. I haven't had an Oreo in years either. So right in the discussion topics, how much TV do you watch, and how many people do you know that actually watch TV?
And to be clear, we're talking about network television.
Network television.
Right? Like cable, satellite, the box plugged into your TV that pulls shows out of the ether.
So I'll answer that for myself first. When I bought a house, or when I first moved out of my parents' house, is when I realized cable TV cost money.
Okay.
And I made the financial decision to not buy cable. So the last time I'm trying to figure out a show that I used to watch through high school. It's been it's got to be more than 10 years now.
Oh, yeah.
That's wild. Yeah, it's more than 10 years.
It's been a long time since TV was the place to go to watch anything.
Watch MacGyver on some...
I'm sure MacGyver's not the most current TV show you've watched. Because that's going back a ways.
I mean, God, Richard Dean Anderson. I'm trying to think of like, this is a great question. I don't. So how much TV? So we don't mean how much time do you spend in front of a television watching movies, streaming services, things like that.
Yeah.
Because like, great, the TV is multi-purpose. It's how much time you're actually watching cable television. You know, in your home, not like out and you've got like the the news playing on a a sign out when you're at the doctor's office or anything. It's. So,
well, and even then, the doctor's offices, they're usually
the news, City TV.
I mean,
they've
so
got
like
some stock stuff going on.
If it's a private, like they'll put like ads, right?
They'll put ads.
They're running their own personal stream. It's not like
I know my
coming
dentist
from the TV companies.
Yeah, I know my dentist office, which I really appreciate. They do. They do like the local news. They have like local news things, and there's ads sprinkled into that. But it's
my dentist office, it's 100% ads.
100% ads.
The only thing on that TV is like talking about crowns.
They don't do that at mine.
Wild. And then like you go to a sports bar, and they'll still have.
Oh yeah,
the game
hockey.
on.
Like so, like things like that. Things like that. I mean, we're not treating that as TV. We're talking about in your home.
I would even loop that in the conversation because like
Maybe.
how much time do you use? Like if we're talking about this as a viable advertising platform, include that. How much time do you spend sitting in restaurants watching the game and then like consuming commercials?
Right, you'll have like whatever an ad show up between commercial breaks. And things
but
like that.
basically no time.
Not like the old days of old. It used to be hours and hours and hours, and now, no.
Do you know anyone who still watches like television?
I know that my parents, who are in their 60s, like they're in the boomer class of, they still watch things that are Survivor, American Idol.
And they're not streaming those? They're like getting them.
No, they're getting those. I know. Well, my dad is big into sports. He watches a lot of tennis. He watches a lot of hockey, a lot of golf. Mm-hmm. So like he's watching all of that stuff as well. So they've got cable. They've got cable.
I haven't had it in years. What I do find myself doing is watching TV when I travel. Because
we did that when we were up in Ottawa. Yeah, we were like watching
in the hotel after a day of running trade shows or seminars. It's like you come back to the hotel, you want to just crash out for a little bit before the end of the night. Throw something on the television. Now, I've also been on trips where people just bring their Amazon Fire Stick, plug that into the TV, and now you're back to streaming as normal. Yep. But if you're not like 100% prepared, most of the time you're not. You might watch TV in a hotel. You might watch TV at your grandparents' house, but like you're probably not watching TV.
I know that like the last 15 Airbnbs I've been in all come with Netflix.
Yeah.
It's just easy peasy.
So like that being the case, we haven't watched a lot of TV in a while. And then even when we did, how effective was advertising? When was the last time a television ad was really memorable?
I know the last time for me because I've talked about it before. It is. I'm gonna get the beer brand wrong now, but it was an advertisement for I think Heineken. Okay. And like the women in this scenario, they're in a new house and the women are taking. She's got the wife is taking her friends around the house and they open up the shoe closet and they all started screaming, and they're like, "Oh my God, it's amazing! Look at the new house and everything." And then they get. Their screams are overpowered by the guys' screams, and they're like 5 feet over at the guy's walk-in closet, and it's a giant walk-in Heineken fridge. And I was like, oh, that's clever because...
Yeah.
And that was the last... But that was, again, more than 10 years ago.
That's also a pretty gendered ad.
Super gendered ad. Super gendered ad.
I don't know if you'd get away with that ad in 2024. Like,
I think they would...
do you remember how mad people were over the ad for Peloton, where the guy bought a Peloton for his wife?
Yes, that was like a couple of years ago.
Massive outcry
about why. Yeah. Now, I will say, and this is definitely directed to TV. Typically, I'm drawn to the larger production ads. So, like Super Bowl ads, I will make a point of going out of my way to watch. A few years ago, everything was about crypto, and then this year it was no crypto. And again, we work in advertising, so it's just nice to see and. Be part of the industry.
I think for me, the last time an ad was memorable, and I don't even remember if I saw this on television or online, was the Old Spice, I'm on a horse.
Oh, I'm on a horse, yeah. Right? That was incredible advertising.
Everyone knew that ad.
Incredible advertising. And that's got to be old.
Yeah.
That's not... Great ad.
You hear
Great
about
ad.
you hear about the occasional Super Bowl ad still, right? Like didn't Wall Street
Tide ad.
Bets take
Tide
out a
ad.
Reddit? Someone took out a Reddit
Reddit
ad
ad.
during the Super Bowl for like 15 seconds.
Yeah, it was something about GameStop or
Yeah, it was like
Wall
it was
Street Bets
during
or,
all of that.
Yeah. So you see some of that stuff, and that stuff gets, and the reason why it's effective is it's super creative and it creates those viral moments. And really, where a lot of the value is created is outside of the TV advertising platform. People get to talk about it like this, and that's what TV was good for back in the day, was making sure you had a wide audience that was fairly targeted, that you knew that you were actually going to reach. But now there's just so few people. Like, I grew up in front of a TV.
Yeah.
Now, well, iPads didn't exist back then. Tablets didn't exist. Now they're growing up in front of a phone, a tablet. You've got YouTube playing a major part in the upbringing of children. You've got Twitch. You've got all kinds of streaming platforms. You've got Netflix. You've got Amazon, Disney. You've got all of that stuff. Like, I grew up with VHSs.
Oh yeah,
You put the VHS in, and that was...
It used to be so funny putting a VHS in and getting the previews.
Getting the previews!
And it's like, it's already like a 5-year-old VHS, and you're like, all of these have come out. You don't. I own 3 of these. You don't even advertise these to me on the VHS. So
I love the previews.
Circling back to the current, from the article, they're putting their ads in a lot of different places. They mentioned, big companies are choosing to spend their advertising dollars in places where people are already in a shopping mood.
Yep.
As sort of like our in-house programmatic advertising expert, can you explain for the audience, what's the difference between ads on social media and ads where people are already in a shopping mood?
Yeah. So I'm going to make some big generalizations here. I like Instagram. Instagram's fun. I don't post a whole lot, but I follow some pretty cool content creators. And when I open up my phone and I open up the Instagram app, I'm not in a buying mood. I am there to be entertained, whether I'm following a comedian, whether I'm learning a recipe, whether I'm just looking at cats. I'm not, my wallet is not nearby. I'm not looking for something. I'm not actively making a search. I don't have a problem. I'm trying to kill 10 minutes. Yeah. It's, cool. Can I get a laugh? Can I get some kind of stimulus that way? Obviously, every, fifth piece of content, there's an ad, and it's fairly targeted towards me because the algorithm knows who I am. Cool. Other than making mistakes, I typically don't click those ads because I'm not in a buying mood. I am killing 15 minutes. So are those ads effective? They can be. They could be more effective if it got me, if it was presented to me closer to when I was making a buying decision and not when I'm on entertainment time. So if I put this in the realm of like TV, if I'm watching the hockey game and I get that Old Spice ad,
You're not going to drop the remote and drive into Walmart and pick up
the new scent of Old Spice. I won't do that. Now, the way that TV advertising works is I'm going to get hit with that ad 40 times through the length of that hockey game. Fine. So it's going to be top of mind later on when I'm making a shopping decision. So I'm influencing the purchasing decision. But in digital advertising, the goal, most brands can't afford to display the ad 40 times to be memorable enough to a person that's going to influence their buying decision at the time where it's closer to purchase. That's the difference.
I think it's, when you talk about Old Spice not making you drop what you're doing to go out and buy deodorant, but also the fact that we're still talking about this ad years later, I think that really nicely demonstrates why you need a combination of advertising that's in people's faces when they're looking for entertainment. And it's just capturing their attention to build brand awareness, and then also advertising that is targeted for conversion, right? Because that brand awareness, it's not going to lead to a lot of direct conversions right away, but what it's going to do is it's going to make audiences more receptive to your ads that are intended to actually drive those clicks to your website and drive conversions. Before we jump into our next topic, because I think we've talked enough about the relevance of television.
I definitely want to hit that. That last point is super.
Sure.
Super on that. Yeah.
Before we get into that last point, I just wanted to say hi to Lenny, who's joined us in the Twitch chat.
Oh, Lenny, buddy, how are you? Good. Oh yeah, he's getting a shout out. Lemmy, how are you doing? Lemmy goes way back. We used to, we said this before, but we started streaming on Twitch
years ago.
Way
before I was in part of the company.
Way back. This is going back 2016 maybe, so 8-9 years ago. Yeah. Cool. Yeah. Nice to give a shout out to you, buddy.
Yeah.
We'll catch up with you later.
So
awesome.
So yeah, last thing on the ads, then we'll move on. What is this? What does this trend mean for small businesses with television ads?
Okay.
With the big companies moving away from television ads, should small businesses be mirroring them? Does this open up an opportunity for small businesses to like start doing TV ads?
It creates a weird dynamic because typically the larger brands were spending money on TV that smaller brands weren't even considering because TV was too expensive. So fine, big budgets were going to where big budgets were typically getting spent. If the big budgets are now going into social media and things like that, it makes it actually harder for the smaller brands to compete because more money is entering the system. So the same amount of impressions get served on Instagram all the time. Like their daily users are their daily users, regardless if there's one advertiser or there's 5,000 advertisers. And now the more that larger businesses enter this stream, the more money that gets spent. They buy up what in the advertising world, they buy up the real estate. They buy up the inventory of impressions. So if there's 100 million impressions, daily impressions for sale, the larger companies are going to gobble those up. So the more money that actually goes into these platforms, it will increase the cost of advertising on those platforms. So it's going to have an impact on small business because it's not going to get cheaper.
Yep.
And by how much I don't know, but like as the larger companies move their money around.
So you're really seeing this as a threat for the small businesses.
It's definitely
where,
a threat. Yeah.
As larger companies move away from traditional ads and move more into the online sphere, the competition for the top ranking keywords is just going to get blown out of the water.
It's going to be, when you have major competitors enter a space and they bring their budgets with them, it is definitely going to get more challenging for smaller businesses.
But do you see opportunity on the other side of this, where like we've got major brands moving away from these traditional advertising channels? Like we talk all the time about billboard ads and mailers and like how much of a benefit you can get for your business by just like sending out
postcards
because so many people aren't doing it anymore with the move to online and like email marketing. So do you think there's a world where smaller businesses start to run more television ads because the larger companies that would have dominated the space historically aren't spending as much money there?
There's still a barrier to entry. So like obviously there's a cost to producing a television ad compared to something that you'd find on Facebook or Instagram or TikTok where like the quality is different. So there's definitely still going to be that barrier to production value. And then I would love to see the cost of TV advertising fall as money leaves the space. They're going to have to become more competitive. But until that happens, it's like the small businesses that we support, they're in between a rock and a hard place right now because the competition is high and the other side of like the opportunity hasn't presented itself yet because that cost is high as well.
And so I think to that point, what we're more likely to see is the existing big players that are still running ads just getting multiple ad spots before it gets cheaper for everyone else. And so rather than lowering the price of advertising, they'll keep the price the same but just give you more airtime.
They'll give you more airtime. And you can see that already if you watch like any kind of programming. Like you've got major car companies, you've got pharmaceutical industry, you've got insurance, legal, you've got the major players.
How often do you see the same pharmaceutical ad leaving the TV show and then returning to the TV show at the end of the commercial break? Tons and tons. So
those industries, they've got deep pockets. They're not going anywhere, and they know. Before I wrap this up, there's also an aspect of it depends where your audience is. If you're not targeting an audience that watches a lot of TV, don't spend money on that channel. Go to where your audience already is. So if you're selling to a younger crowd, it'll never make sense for you to take out a TV ad because it's not going to reach their ears, their eyeballs. You're not going to get them. So even if you get it to be a viral moment, it's still not going to work.
Yep.
So for small business, the low-hanging fruit is I got to go to where people are interested in your product and are closer to the buying cycle. So like again, just boosting posts on Facebook is just not effective spend. They're not doing that.
So in the spirit of continuing to talk about the new advertising channels that are opening up online and the shift away from traditional ads, let's move into our second topic.
Let's do it. I'll
give you screen sharing and you can introduce the article.
Lovely.
Is it gonna do you?
Is it?
It will.
Maybe.
It will. I just might need to
It will.
adjust this on the fly.
Hey, we're doing it live. We're doing it live. Yeah, and the company started on Twitch. It did, way back when, before Twitch was even famous. It was good. I think you were one of our first subscribers way back in the day, which is really cool. We've evolved quite a bit since then. So, Aaron's just working through some...
Just OBS stuff.
Which is all good. We've got a... There it is. Okay. In video game ad spend projected to reach a cool $11.5 billion by 2027. Advertisers plan to increase spend on in-video game advertising by 40% this year, according to a new study, with total ad spend set to reach $8.5 billion in 2024 and increase to $11.5 billion by 2027. In IAB's Change the Game, How Games Advertising Powers Performance report, which was revealed Tuesday, so that'll be... essentially the week of May 25th for anyone watching later in this. 86% of advertisers surveyed said gaming ad spend is brand safe, and 85% are confident in their ability to measure the reach of games advertising. Additionally, the study finds that 90% of ad buyers find gaming ads to be effective in reaching valuable, hard-to-reach audiences with relevant messaging, with an estimated 213 million gamers in the US. That's wild, because it's like 2/3 of their entire population. And then that is from vanity.com. So some wild stats there. I see anything like 86%, 85%, and 90% as massive indicators. And then the fact that the entire ad spend is increasing by 40% in 1 year, so advertising by 40% just this year, with the growth to be expected by billions with a B, is an incredible amount of spend. So I've got some opinions on this, but I think, Aaron, you play more video games than I do. So, like, can you give me an example of what an in-game video ad is?
So there's a bunch of different types. Going way back in time, traditionally, you would have billboard ads in video games.
In video games,
right? So, like, if you ever played any older, like, PlayStation 1 era game where you're going through a city, odds are the billboards in the city would be made up of real ads where they paid for essentially product placement in the game.
In the game.
As things have evolved, this is updated to the point where the ad spots in video games can be updated in real time, because everything's connected now, right? Games are reaching back to the server for information all the time. Updates are always rolling out. And whenever companies have a way to inject new information into a game, that opens up an opportunity for them to inject new ads. And then there's some crazy examples. Like, we've seen fully branded video games over the years. Like, there was a Pepsi Man game at one point.
Pepsi Man! Yeah, that goes way back, but yeah.
The Noid had a video game as well. So, like again, this is going way back, but like there were some crazy examples of like marketing built into video games. It goes the other way too. Like, if you remember cereal boxes coming with CDs of video games in the 90s.
Roller Coaster Tycoon, right? Sims.
Like, this was... Video games have always kind of been this awesome cross-promotional opportunity. And we're just seeing that evolve. So one of the big things is even just ad spots on menu pages in games.
Oh.
So a perfect example is one of the games that came out this year. And a lot of people were talking about it when it came out. It had this big block on the home page that was just like telling you about some feature in game to be aware of. And reviewers were calling it at the time that as soon as they're ready to release an expansion for that game, that big block is immediately going to turn over into an advertising spot to sort of try to sell you that new piece of content. And so things like that are really big in the gaming space. I forget who it was, but very recently, one of the larger CEOs in the space, like an executive for one of the biggest AAA gaming studios, said that he feels advertising in games is going to be like a pillar of financials for the industry in the future. He thinks that that's a massive market to tap into and is only going to grow.
It's going to grow. So I grew up with obviously a lot of offline games, Nintendo 64, even the Xbox prior to it being Xbox Live being a thing. And then the games that I did play, like Halo, there was no ads. Like there was nothing there. There was no microtransactions. There was a little bit of like downloadable content in the future, so they could give you like a map pack or something like that. So definitely different from what I grew up playing. I grew up playing like Diablo 2, Baldur's Gate.
Yep. Which
Halo.
is, still pretty current.
Still pretty current. No in-game ads, though. No in-game ads. So it actually bridges the topic before where they say, like, hey, the study finds that 90% of ad buyers find gaming ads to be effective at reaching valuable, hard-to-reach audiences. Yeah, it's hard to reach that audience because if they're consuming media, so instead of them watching television or listening to radio or spending time on social media, if they're playing games online with their friends, there's not an opportunity to reach them with a promotion. So this is kind of like a net, well, not totally net new. There's still $8.5 billion being spent on it. But in ad world dollars, $8.5 billion is like peanuts.
Yeah.
That's a very small amount if you look at like the giant pie of advertising, just like compared to just like Google ads. Google ads is in the hundreds of billions.
To provide some context to what I was just saying, it's Andrew Wilson, the CEO of Electronic Arts.
Oh, EA, wow, yeah,
he
huge publisher.
Said, so, and EA trying to leverage their customers to squeeze more value is completely unsurprising to anyone who follows any kind of gaming news or plays a lot of games. Yeah. But yeah, he's said that he feels that advertising in games is like essentially the future of the industry.
So, how do you purchase in-game ads?
That's a great question. So purchasing in-game ads is really interesting. There are ads networks that you can go to and just buy the ad spots like you would with essentially any other platform. And they've got like analytics tools. They'll give you a ton of like behind the scenes information. It's very similar to purchasing ads through something like Google Ads or the Meta ad space. Now the companies that are selling the ad spots in video games, they don't make it quite as accessible as the name brand players in the traditional search engine marketing or social media marketing space. So like in my research, prepping for this stream, I wasn't able to find, without really digging into it, what the rates are like for purchasing ads from these companies or what the minimum ad spends are. So I'm not sure how accessible this actually is to your average small business, but I can say with confidence, with the rate this market is growing,
it'll become more.
The companies are going to want access to the volume of advertising dollars that are spent by small businesses. They're going to want to make it as accessible as something like purchasing Google Ads is.
Yeah, if they create a platform or a portal where you can essentially input your credit card, your business credit card, and upload some creative, and you can buy ad spots with some targeting, that'll make it very, very accessible to small business. Now, having said that, accessible to small business doesn't mean you should do it. You still really, really need to know what you're doing before you just throw money at it. So the accessible part is only a fraction of what you should care about. It also needs to
I look at the accessible part as is this something you should be discussing with your advertising expert? It's never, is this something you should go out and do immediately untrained?
Right? Don't do your own dentistry.
Even Google Ads. Yeah. We would never recommend to a small business owner, go out and run your own Google Ads with no understanding of what the analytics mean. Because
100%.
You'll waste a ton of money.
And time and frustration and not good.
And you won't get the results you're looking for. So the recommendation to always talk to someone who's an expert in the field, but some things you can write off right away. You're probably not paying for product placement in a blockbuster movie.
No, you're not having the can of soda on the counter.
Unless you're an absolutely massive company or you're partnered with Ryan Reynolds. You're not going to get that ad spot. And so that's not something you should be reasonably bringing to your advertising partners. Unless if you're in the scale where you can afford those kinds of ads and that's an option for you, and you don't need our advice on it.
No. The second question is, who are the in-game ads targeting? So based on other ad platforms, and I'm going to make some assumptions here, we get all kinds of tools behind ad platforms. So time of day targeting. So if I've got an audience that is up at 2 a.m, I can absolutely see a delivery service advertising to you after midnight going, hey, you're probably not going to make food anymore.
Sure.
But I can see that you've been active on this game for 4 hours. So that means you probably haven't eaten 4 hours ago. Your active time is 4. You might be getting hungry. I can see an Uber Eats ad hitting you. I can see a Domino's
I was even looking at the question more broadly because I can imagine people saying, why would I want to advertise on video games? Video games are for kids.
I mean, they're based on the numbers here. They are definitely, some video games are definitely for kids, and some video games are absolutely not for kids.
Well, when 2/3 of the U.S. population are gamers, that can't all be children.
No, it
just
cannot.
based on the numbers. It's also worth noting that there are very different types of games, and in-game ads display in very different places. So I believe smartphone ads are included in some of these metrics.
Yes. So
right?
mobile gaming will definitely be on that.
And like my partner spends a ton of time playing mobile games. That's like one of her pastimes when she's just, you know, sitting on the couch between things, and she just needs something to keep occupied. She dives into the mobile games and gets served a ton of mobile game ads, usually trying to sell other mobile games. But sometimes it's for products, and it's
clothing, food, you name it.
Yep.
So I can definitely...
And so the reason I bring that up is because that is an adult customer.
That is an adult
that is being served those ads on a regular basis.
So this is a really good point, because it's like when you look at advertising as a whole, it's not like this ad is bad and this ad is good. It's you bring your targeting parameters into that network.
Yeah.
There's a reason why I don't see a whole lot of like women-specific ads that are targeting things more generally targeted at women during the hockey game, because the people that are advertising know that the audience is predominantly male or hockey lovers, and they're going to weigh the odds. Like, advertisers are very, very strict on, do the demographics make sense? Because it's money at the end of the day. I need to turn this dollar amount into this dollar amount, end of story. So I want to increase my odds of that.
Yep.
So like I've seen advertising on slot machines.
Oh yeah.
I've seen you all over the place. So absolutely. Like, who are they targeting? They're targeting people who play games. Children, seniors, middle age. There's no discrimination. Yep. If they're playing a game and there's enough of that population to make sense to advertise it to it and put it into a segment, they will do that.
My grandmother used to play Pogo, I think was the name of the like online games, sort of like social networking kind of site.
Pogo.
Years ago.
Pogo.
Yeah, it was like invite your friends and get points for inviting your friends, and like play daily puzzles to get extra unlocks, and like it was all like a Skinner boxy, like watch all the numbers go up kind of stuff. Very similar level to like Farmville in terms of like how cerebral it is.
Yep.
And that was a very senior audience. Is the reason I bring that up, right? So like, who's in this sphere? It's everyone.
It's everyone.
It's everyone.
It's world, and I mean, like, especially if you've got an e-commerce component to your business where you're able to serve a wider network than your. Like, I wouldn't be doing this as a standalone restaurant. If I've got one restaurant and I'm serving a local audience, this isn't probably the right place for you because I just won't hit enough people. But if you've got an e-commerce component and you're trying to sell, the product through Shopify or Amazon or pick a thing, you've probably got enough distribution, a wide enough distribution net to capture some of that. And again, if you don't know, ask. So like, there's no harm in saying, hey, are my people there? Do I have customers in this sphere? I would rather you go and find out. And if it's a no, it's still a no, but now you know.
So, that being the case, and speaking very broadly, do you think there are certain types of companies that really should be looking at game advertising as a channel, and certain types of companies that shouldn't? Yeah. And like, what is that split?
Oh, there are definitely companies that fall into that. So like, right off the hop, you can absolutely think, if I'm playing video games and I'm making keyboards, I'm making, computer chairs, or I'm making desktop monitors, or I'm making custom mouse pads, or like, there's definitely going to be an immediate audience that is like, oh, you are my target audience no matter what you're playing, whether it's headphones, any kind of electronic device. Awesome. Ergonomic wrist guard, and pick a thing, there's going to be market for you in that. Beyond that, there's going to be all kinds of other things, from like, hey, I know that even Netflix had done this, like, you can shop the show. I know they started that with Stranger Things. Oh, you like that t-shirt that was featured in this episode of the show? You can buy that. Well, you are going to be able to do that in this too.
There's some really interesting examples of that. So I don't know if you know about this. Walmart has a collaboration with Roblox.
Yes.
Where you can actually make real-life Walmart purchases in-game.
In-game, which is wild.
Through the in-game store. So you go and you spend your in-game currency, and you or real currency, I'm sure there's a conversion, and you add the Walmart products to cart in-game, and then in real life, they show up shipped to your house.
Yeah. And I can absolutely think that's going to happen. I know there's been a long, like, the advertisers at my social circles, we've been We've been theorizing that there's going to be specific ad placements within movies that are going to be dynamically generated based on the watching person's watching persona. So like the billboard that's in the Batman movie will modify based on who's there because they can do that. The technology exists for that. Specifically in a game, again, it's just like, who is my target audience? If you don't have any user personas, you're going to have to start by generating some user personas, and we really just need to dive into like, what does this audience care about?
Yep.
So like making some assumptions.
In very general terms, I think as a rule of thumb, this tool will best serve established companies with the ability to ship a product.
Yes. Distribution or direct ship. Yeah.
If you're a new e-commerce company and you're just starting out and you don't have brand awareness and you're trying to get traction, you're probably not at a scale where this channel makes sense for you.
No.
If you are super well established and you're making tons of money, but you happen to be a local service company,
no dice.
This is not going to make sense for you either.
Yeah, this is not helping the...
you're not going to sell people HVAC in their video game ads.
Nope. No matter how good that ad is.
Yeah. In the interest of time, let's keep going through these topics.
But it's super cool. Like, and on this, as long as it doesn't... I haven't played video games in a little while, but as long as it doesn't impact the gameplay, and I'm like, oh my goodness, why am I not playing right now? Why am I watching?
Well, that's a whole other conversation that we could get into. Yeah. But let's move on to our next topic.
Cool.
So I'll go ahead and take us through it. Google's AI overview appears to produce misleading answers. One of the key new features unveiled at the Google I/O Developer Conference last week, AI-generated summaries on search results, has become the subject of scrutiny and jokes on social media after users appeared to show the feature displaying misleading information and, in some cases, dangerous misinformation. Several Google users, including journalists, have shared what appears to be multiple examples of the AI summary called AI Overview, citing dubious sources such as Reddit posts written as jokes, or failing to understand that articles on The Onion aren't factual. Forbes has contacted Google about the results, but a company's spokesperson told The Verge that the mistakes were appearing on generally very uncommon queries and aren't representative of most people's experiences. And this article came from Forbes. So discussion topics: does this erode confidence in the platform, or does it bring awareness to the new feature?
I've seen all of these where it's just like, they're the AI overview is telling people to put like glue on their pizza.
They were like mix a half a cup of Elmer's glue in with your tomato sauce to make the cheese stick better.
Yeah, it's just like, okay, clearly that is a mistake. I find that hilarious. But when you're dealing with like someone as large as Google, you can't serve that information because some level of the population will do it. Like the Tide Pod challenge was a thing, as ridiculous as that is. So it does erode confidence a little bit because like AI is on this pedestal right now, and it's funny and it's like, this is ridiculous from my point of view. Does it bring awareness to the feature? It brings awareness to the new feature. I just don't think in a good light. It's like, that shouldn't be there. Like, that's clearly wrong. It's like eroding.
That's the question, right? Is like, does the erosion of confidence, because it's definitely going to give people less faith in what they're reading online.
Yeah, big time.
But is that going to matter to Google's bottom line? Or is it just going to drive more people to go check out the feature and use the platform?
I don't think it is going to affect their bottom line at all. This is like, we are into AI technology like a smidge. So it is, overly hyped up in my opinion. I still kind of view this as all like very, very new technology. You can't, I don't know if there's a product on the planet in phase 1 that releases without bugs.
Yeah. It's very hard to do.
It's very difficult to do because like eventually you gotta get it launched. So there's problems with it. It's working on it. We tell people all the time, great, AI can help you. It is a tool.
Yep.
It still needs to be used by a professional because it doesn't mean the tool is right or good. So I think the term there, I think we've mentioned this before, is like, it's going to come back confidently incorrect. It is confident that you need Elmer's glue to keep the pizza cheesy, but that is incorrect.
Yeah.
It'll do a very good job convincing you to do that. So if you are using something like this, you still need to be a professional. It does not turn a non-professional into a professional because the AI is scouring all of the internet's data to find the right answer. And it's absolutely hilarious that it's pulling Reddit comments into factual results. It's kind of, I find that amusing.
It can be funny, but do you think it can also be like actually dangerous? So the
it could. Oh, absolutely.
The cheese or like the mixing glue into your pizza sauce example is hilarious because of how obviously false it is.
Yes.
But there was another example where the summary claimed that Obama is Muslim, which is a popular conspiracy theory about the former president.
So it can absolutely get dangerous.
And to me, when you have that kind of misinformation being presented from one of Google's platforms,
this isn't like user XYZ claiming that Obama is Muslim. This has Google's name on it saying Google thinks Obama's Muslim. That's dangerous.
Yeah.
So if Google wants to maintain its reputation saying, hey, we're here to present good information, and that's what they've been trying to do for many years, and then this happens, that's not good. Because then there's a massive portion of that's going to say, well, clearly Google, there's a term, Google it. Google has the answer. And then you Google it, and then AI Overview brings up that it is. It's like, that's going
to cause some issues.
That's going to cause some serious issues.
And it could go both ways too, right? Like that could absolutely just add to the echo chamber, where depending on what you search, it's going to find results that are more or less likely to agree with you. And it's just going to spit those back out at you as facts.
I saw, and I haven't tested this myself. I haven't done this with my partner. On Instagram Reels, you'll get a topic, you'll get a reel, and what I saw, which was very convincing, was a topic. It was somewhat controversial, not really. It was she shared it with her partner. And so it was like, great, they're two different user personas. So there was like, the traditional husband in the relationship and the wife. And when she opened up the comments on her, it was very one-sided into what it thought women should believe. And then when the guy opened up his comment section, the comments were completely in favor. And there has been some testing on it going, is that echo chamber? Is there a mismatch of that algorithm? And
so sorry, if I'm understanding this correctly, because I've never heard of this and this is interesting.
Yeah.
So you're suggesting that the comments are being sorted in a way that presents one side. It's the same post.
It's the same post.
It's the same post. So this isn't the same content posted in two different search
Nope, it's the same post. So she shared the post. She shared the post.
The comments that are being shown match their echo chamber.
Because
that's
it is
wild.
Yeah, and that's kind of fits into this because it's is that actually dangerous? Is the way that the content is being presented potentially dangerous? Because it's a false view. It builds that echo chamber view like, oh, my opinion is right. Yeah. Oh, I knew Obama was Muslim. Google's saying he's Muslim. Oh, there's 40,000 people online that believe the same thing as me. But that's actually not accurate. It's filtering content out to affirm your beliefs.
It reminds me of an issue that has happened on Wikipedia for years that is similarly hilarious, where someone will type something false into Wikipedia, and before it gets corrected by the editors on Wikipedia, who are very good, right? Usually Wikipedia pages are fairly reliable as like true enough information, because there's an active community trying to fight bias on the platform and make sure what goes on there is right.
I like Wikipedia. Yep.
But what will happen sometimes is the information on a Wikipedia page, before it gets moderated out and corrected, will be cited.
Oh, no.
In a third-party article. That third-party article now gets posted as an independent source. A few more of these happen. So a new article will cite the previous, et cetera, and you start to build this chain, this body of work, all backing up this piece of misinformation that was originally just typed into Wikipedia. And now what happens is someone goes and updates the Wikipedia article with a citation linking to one of those articles.
And then that circle is fulfilling that falsehood over and over and over again, and then it's very hard to change that. And then
I don't know how prevalent that is anymore, but I know that
used to be
there's a big deal.
Yeah. So I haven't tested that personally with Instagram in the comments. It wouldn't surprise me that platforms are doing that because platforms just want to keep you engaged. There's a self-serving aspect of it.
Now the big difference between the Instagram thing and the Google thing, whether the Instagram thing is true or not, in that case, it's just Instagram choosing which information to serve you, but it's still clearly comments by individuals that aren't Instagram. And Google, that's nothing new. Google has a search algorithm. They've chosen what content to serve you for years, and that's based on all kinds of factors. The question here is when Google is just saying, oh, here's the answer, and it's not in a web page and the attribution is not necessarily massively clear, it's Google's like AI driven answer. Is Google now publishing that platform or publishing that content, and then should they be accountable to its contents?
Yeah, this is, I can't remember what law this falls under, but like they try very heavily not to classify themselves as a publisher.
100%. And we're not lawyers, so we won't get to the nitty gritty of it. But like this is one of the cornerstones of YouTube.
Yeah, we're not
the
publishers.
fact that YouTube can function at all with like the copyright violations that do happen on the platform is because Google can step back and say, we're not the publisher, we're just the platform.
We're the platform.
Users are responsible for the content. Well, if Google is starting to publish their own content,
that's the big question.
then that to my mind, as a layperson, to my mind that comes into question.
Some lawyers are going to have some fun with this one because the argument now can very clearly be made that they're a publisher if they can't cite where they're getting the information. If it's their technology that's actually creating the search result, it's hard to say it's anyone but Google creating the content now, which makes them a publisher. And because they're prioritizing the content at the top of search, they are automatically getting page one, search one results.
Yep.
So the highest audience, the most impressions, the most believable from a layperson's point of view. It's going to be, there's going to be some...
Now,
they're going to have to work that out.
Wrapping up this conversation before we move on to our next topic, there are a couple of points we should clarify. So number one, this new feature hasn't been rolled out across the board yet. It's still in preview builds of Google search. Not everyone has access to it. Google may see some of these problems as serious and adjust or scrap the whole feature before it sees a widespread public release.
Yeah.
I wasn't actually able to test the software myself. My Google account, for whatever reason, wasn't eligible to gain access to the preview.
It knows you're critical of
Yeah, probably. They know from all my past content that I'm critical of AI.
No.
And then, so that actually brings me to my second point, just so like, as a business owner, seeing all this unfold, you probably don't need to take any action right away.
No.
This is, again, like everything else, we're early on in the AI life cycle. Pay attention to it. Look at what's going on. But don't rush to try to see this as an opportunity to start using AI in some way.
And on the other side, don't feel like, because it's not perfect, it's not great. So don't go bash it at the same time. Don't fall head over heels with the idea. It's just a new tool that's developing. Cars were developed without seatbelts. Yeah. There was a big problem with cars when they first came out, and it got better and better. So
speaking of problematic technologies,
segue.
Do you want to dive into our next topic?
Yeah, let's do it.
Cool. I'll give you back the screen sharing.
Let's do it. So Canada orders the dissolution of two firms citing national security concerns. So Ottawa, May 24th, Reuters. Canada ordered on Friday the dissolution of two technology companies' businesses in the country, citing national security concerns. The companies Bluevec Technologies and Pagani Technology Inc. were given the dissolution order and asked to cease all operations in the country under the law that governs foreign investments in Canada, according to a statement from the Innovation Ministry. The decision was taken after a review that involved rigorous scrutiny by Canada's national security and intelligence community. Innovation Minister François-Philippe Champagne said in the statement did not give details on the investments, the security concerns, or any information on the companies beyond their names. A spokesperson for the Innovation Minister did not immediately respond for request for more information late on Friday, and that's Reuters again. So I definitely trust them as a news source. They do pretty good news.
Not to say that this was an in-depth article.
Nope.
There's not a lot of information for us to go on there.
Nope.
I can't really say how much of a threat these companies were, but if the government thinks that they are, then maybe there's something there.
There's always this is what happens with governments. It's just like there's foreign investment in every country. And part of the government's responsibility is to make sure that those foreign investments maintain positivity for Canadian citizens. So, just because you bring the money is not good enough you've got to make sure your citizens are still safe. So it's good to see that the government is stepping in to do these things, whether or not this was justified or not. Again, they don't go into too many details, but it's...
Now, let's take our tinfoil hats and put them not all the way on, but half on.
Half on.
And go... what the heck is going on with foreign tech investment right now?
Ooh, there's a lot. It's in the news. This is a big topic.
It's in the news a lot. So like we're talking about this. We talked about some of this legislation coming out in one of our previous streams a couple of months ago. There's all the talk of TikTok potentially being banned in the U.S.
Mm-hmm.
There have been the attempts to stop Chinese companies from getting access to AI chips.
The world is a wonky place right now. Tinfoil hat is getting a little closer.
As someone who's really interested in technology, this feels like a bit of a powder keg.
I mirror that thought. It is a little bit of a powder keg. So there's a lot going on in the world right now. We've got 2 active wars plus a whole bunch of other stuff. There's an election year happening in the United States. There's an election year happening the year after that in Canada. There's like a lot of things stacking on everything. Like we are ripe. So powder keg is a great way to phrase it. So the government taking a stand in to make sure that like there isn't foreign influence or money being spent to do things that shouldn't be happening.
I think some of it just comes down to the rapid pace at which technology is evolving.
Yeah.
Right? Because you look at right back to the Industrial Revolution to now, the pace has been incredible. And has only continued to get faster.
Yeah, the hockey stick graph is still like the printing press.
Yeah, from the
printing press
to large language models or learning language models.
It's wild.
Yeah,
it's wild. There was only so many people you could talk to. The town crier could only scream so loud, and now the voice is very commanding. So
there's an old curse that you can lay on someone. It's "May you live in interesting times."
May you live in interesting times.
Right,
I like that.
One of the worst things you can wish upon someone, because interesting times usually mean a lot of chaos and a lot of change and a lot of stress.
We should figure out who says that. Who said that? May you live in interesting times.
Yeah, and so I think
that.
Ultimately, we're seeing a lot of that now.
We're seeing a lot.
The world's in a weird place, and we're not political experts, so we're not going to get into the
not
state
legal
of
expert.
geopolitics.
Nope. But we can say what's there. Like there are things happening to what degree and how much and everything like that. Like
there are wars. There's an election. There's all kinds of new laws being introduced. The technology is moving at a rapid pace. Like things are crazy and things are changing. As a small business owner, you can't keep up with all of it. How do you, at the very least, make sure your data stays in Canada?
Oh. There's some interesting ways to do that. I mean, like use technology providers that you trust. For sure. Like, I mean, there might be a cheaper alternative to things, but you can definitely do some research on like where is your data stored? Is it Canadian? Is it Canadian hosting? Is it widely adopted in your industry? You can find these things out. If you're not sure, contact an expert. So like, in the effort to maintain a safe environment for you and your customers, cheaper doesn't always mean better.
Oh yeah.
It's like you might want to do some, instead of saving $4 a month per user, you might want to look. So very real in the healthcare space, if you're storing HIPAA information, in the legal space, if you're storing like sensitive documents, you might need to look into like how are we actually doing these things. Simple things like a password manager, proper employee training on like what is two-factor authentication, why it's important. We hear all the time about people getting phished, claiming like the CEO wants you to buy gift cards on their behalf and things like that. You should have a process in your business for these things, and then your employees are trained on them so that you don't fall subject to this. Now, again, keep the tinfoil hat here. If a government wants to do you harm, there's not much as a small business owner can do. Now, you're not going to be a threat. There's very few small business owners that come under the fire of someone with real resources that wants to see your demise. So don't fear large-scale assault. But at the same time, there's lots of crooks out there.
Yep.
So like, just don't make it easy for them.
Be careful.
Be careful.
Right. Find a Canadian web host that doesn't use overseas servers. Yep. Ask them where their servers are provided. Like, do they own their own servers, or are they just reselling Amazon web service space? Look into how your data is actually being transferred. If you're dealing with a lot of sensitive data and you want to make sure it stays where it's supposed to stay, you might want to look into a virtual private network.
Yeah, VPN.
You're looking for the words end-to-end encryption.
Don't take credit card information through email.
Yeah.
Call them. Like, there's simple things like that. Using a...
you may even have to look at like where your emails, or how your emails are being handled. If you want to control your data and keep it in country, you probably can't use Google Workspace or Outlook, because you want to make sure you're not interfacing with those servers that are stored all over the world.
We don't fearmonger too much, because Google and Microsoft, I do fundamentally trust those two businesses, but Aaron and I don't run a company that is storing sensitive, privileged information. We're not running a healthcare clinic. We're not running.
And in our technology reviews that we've done for a lot of our clients, this comes up all the time, because most of the small businesses we interact with before we start working with them don't have any security technology in place.
None. Zero. Yeah, none.
And so, one of the first things we say is, well, listen, based on the kind of work you do, you don't need the same requirements as a lawyer or a
restaurant or someone that's even higher than that.
Well,
I was saying on the other side. You were saying, sorry.
A restaurant doesn't need the same security considerations that a lawyer or a doctor needs.
Yes.
You need some. You need to be careful with your data. If you're an e-commerce store and you're taking online payments, don't be storing credit card information.
Yep.
Right? You don't want to be accountable for any of that data. You can avoid a lot of those pitfalls, though, by using really trusted technologies. One of our big discussion points here, because we're not trying to fearmonger, is what are some great Canadian technologies? Because we're seeing sketchy companies being mandatorily shut down by the government.
Yep.
What are some great Canadian technology companies? Shopify,
biggest company in Canada. Example. I think they're I think they're one of our largest companies by market share, by revenue, and by market cap is Shopify.
And they provide a great service.
Huge service.
And they handle the payment processing for you.
Yep.
Right? So if you need an e-commerce website and you need to make sure everything is secure and everything is well run, I think there's a lot of value in partnering with some of the biggest players in the game.
Yeah. And then there's some larger companies that have multiple service offerings within them. So they'll say, we've got these hosting options that are available. And if you needed Canadian specific hosting, that might be a thing under their umbrella of services. It might cost a little bit more. It might not be as full featured as their main service offering, but it is something that they can provide. So just because, it doesn't stand out on their website as above the fold header menu, that's something that you just end up what are the full features that are here?
And some of that you might have to be at a certain scale to get.
Yep.
Shopify is not going to go roll out custom solutions for
a small
any
business.
Given business.
Yes.
Let's move on to our final discussion topic, because this is a pretty big one.
Yeah, this is the new one.
Yeah.
This is the new one that we added this is brand new.
I'll give you screen sharing and you can read us in.
Right on. Keeping with the tinfoil hat metaphor. The biggest findings in the Google search leak. One thing right off the bat, the Google search algorithm was not leaked, and the SEO experts don't suddenly have all the answers, but the information that did leak this week was a collection of thousands of internal Google documents, and it's still huge. It's an unprecedented look into Google's inner workings that are typically closely guarded. Perhaps the most notable revelation of the 2,500 documents is that they suggest Google representatives have misled the public in the past when discussing how the biggest gatekeeper of the internet assesses and ranks content for its search engine. Over the years, Google spokespeople have repeatedly denied that user clicks factor into ranking websites. For example, the leaked documents made note that several types of clicks users make and indicate that they feed into ranking pages in search. There's no indication in the documents about how different attributes are weighted. It's also possible that some of these attributes named in the documents, like an identifier for small personal sites or the demotion of product reviews, for example, might have been deployed at some point but have since been phased out. They also may have never been used for ranking sites at all. And this is from The Verge. So there was the leak happened May 30th or May 29th, like 1 or 2 days ago. This is brand spanking new stuff. So I'm sure we have not read the 2,500 documents.
No, and we don't plan to. That's a lot of information to go into.
We don't have all of the answers that are coming out of this. There's a lot of information there.
I don't think you even need your tinfoil hat for our first discussion topic. Why would Google hide their ranking factors?
Okay, so first and foremost, if you knew how the algorithm worked, you would game it.
Yep.
You would immediately go And I mean, you can treat this on everything. If I knew when to pull the slot machine to guarantee my win, I would only pull the slot machine when I was going to win. So they obviously can't give you all of the algorithm is going to be a bunch of weighting factors that all pull into whether or not and where you rank in search. Of course, they're not going to publish that because there would be people like us that would immediately go, let's go. They just released the best practices, and we would be idiots not to absolutely follow the instructions. And all of their competition would do the same thing. So you'd have all the other search engines go, let's do what they do because they are the leaders in the space. So of course they're not going to publish that stuff.
Yeah. And this used to be a problem when a lot of the ranking factors were more clearly defined and more widely available. Yeah. You know, keyword stuffing back in the 90s and like adjusting your metadata to appear higher in search results used to be such a huge tactic in SEO that was bad for end users. It was bad for the search engines, but people knew that if they crammed the right metadata in there, they could appear earlier in search, so they'd use the system. I think Google's got a lot of good reasons for keeping their cards close to their chest and not wanting to let that happen again. That said, what do you think this new information actually means for businesses?
I would prefer if they just said, instead of lying, they just say no comment.
Sure.
There's never really a good reason to lie about it. So if they get asked by a journalist, hey, do you factor in clicks? When no comment, zero information. I'm not going to say no. I'm not going to say yes. It's we don't discuss our algorithm publicly or whatnot. You get no information because now this doesn't feel like I misled the public.
I agree. Fundamentally, I agree. There's no reason to be lying to people.
Yeah.
I will play devil's advocate for a minute though. What would you have them do if there is a controversy over something they are perceived to be doing?
Like, how would they get ahead of it? How would they address the public if they were accused of like
if they were
biasing certain information over another? Without
just like if their policy is to not discuss their algorithm at all,
right?
What would you have them say when someone says...
I would have a clever lawyer and a PR expert draft a statement that spokesperson is going to say is we don't play favorites. All of the information that gets weighted by the algorithm is independent. We don't... I would tell the truth. I would tell the truth, but without getting specific into what the algorithm does or how this...
and I think that kind of gets us to the crux of why this situation is so muddy.
Yeah.
Because based on these documents that were released, we don't actually know the facts or the scope of what Google was doing with the information. We just know that they have notes about potential ways to use information.
Yeah.
And, so in the past, if someone said, are you using clicks
to influence...
and rank search results, and we don't like that, Google may have had a PR person who's not a technology expert come in and say, no, we don't do that.
No, we don't do that.
And that might have been true. They might not have done it. It might just be something that was floated as an idea in internal documents. We don't know from this leak, at least from how it's being reported.
We're going to find out more. Because this, depending on the scale of this and what happens, you might be seeing more of this in our next episode. Because we really pay attention to SEO and what Google is doing because it plays such a big part in our work. And so we're going to find out more, for sure.
Not every business owner has the time or desire to pay a lot of attention to SEO. So as a small business owner, how can you navigate search engine optimization and search engine marketing?
From a non-technical standpoint, you build content for your user.
Sure.
And that's typically a best practice. It's not keyword stuffing. It's making your potential audience's life easier. You put the data where people are looking for it. You write clear and concisely.
That's also easier said than done, though, right?
Big time.
You probably need to work with a search engine optimization specialist to make that happen.
Yes.
One thing we've seen a lot of is businesses putting out content that they think is answering their audience's questions, and they've never actually looked at any of the search data to find out what answers potential customers are actually looking for.
One of the biggest things we see is I need a new website. So we talk about, okay, what does this new website look like? You've already got one. Oh, we need to move all this content. We need to move the whole blog over. It's well, what is the value of spending a whole bunch of money moving a bunch of pages that don't have any value? When you move from house to house, you typically try not to move all of your junk and garbage at the same time. There's a little bit of purge that happens. I want to take the best of everything, Let's not carry forward the mistakes. So you definitely need to get an expert in there if you're not comfortable using something like Google Search Console, Google Analytics, if you're not using any kind of SEM software or SEO software. So if you're not using something like Screaming Frog or Ahrefs, something like that, if you're not comfortable doing that, you have to get a professional involved. When you are building new content, there's a really, really good way to figure out what content there is to build. It's talk to your audience.
Yeah.
Talk to them in the reel. You have a clipboard out and you record their questions that they're asking you in real time. And if that question appears 50 times, your website's not doing a good job answering it. Your social media is not doing a good job answering it. You can do a better job displaying that information to them, regardless if that's going to benefit your SEO or not.
Yeah.
This is just better for your customer. Typically, there's a bunch of SEO benefit to answering good questions or common questions. But yeah, there's going to be all kinds of technical things like where do you actually put it on the site? How do you actually structure the data? Why do you want to have proper headings? Things like that. But at the end of the day, even the SEO expert isn't going to have the boots on the ground information that you're going to have interacting with your staff day to day. They're going to have the digital version of that between what is actually being searched for online.
Like most things in our sphere, there's no one-off magical answer that's going to solve all your problems.
If there was, we'd sell it to you.
Well, sure.
We would sell it to you every day, but it doesn't exist.
It takes a multifaceted approach. And this is where a lot of small businesses struggle because like they go, I want a new website, but you're not thinking about what kind of content you're going to deliver on that website, how that relates to your customers. You're not thinking about how you're going to drive traffic to that website. I think one of the biggest pitfalls you can make as a small business owner looking to improve their online presence is going and building out budget for a website overhaul or brand new website, and then not building in a content strategy or any kind of long-term marketing plan for actually pushing traffic to that website. It's a crazy waste of money to go and optimize a website that no one is visiting.
Yeah. So like the big thing there is like, do you want the new website because you think it will make you more money? Or is it like breaking and it's taking a lot of time and resources to keep alive because it was built 15 years ago? Like if it's designed, if you're trying to say, I need a new website because I want my revenue to go up, the age-old phrase "build it and they will come" is not true.
Yeah.
The new website will not make you more money without a whole bunch of supporting pieces. So back to the Google search leak, from the state of things, it sounds like they have misled or lied or something in terms of what things the Google algorithm is looking for and weighting. We kind of knew that already. Like the algorithm's huge. There's so many factors that go into this.
Yeah.
So like, just because they're tracking clicks and clicks are a weighted factor, it wasn't something that you could go and get as a small business owner. Like, oh, I know Google cares about clicks. Oh, I need to get more clicks.
Yeah.
That's not something that you can go and harvest.
I wouldn't be going to your SEO expert and like harassing them to make sure your website is updated based on this leak. It's not that kind of information. We may uncover new tools in the near future that can help your websites gain more traction. Yeah. And that's something that your SEO partner should be keeping an eye on and coming back to you with if it develops into something actionable.
Yeah. Obviously, every website wants more clicks, but not something that's easier said than done. So, anything else? Well, yeah, we'll circle back on this because I think there's going to be definitely more that comes into those 2,500 pages.
We'll see.
I'm excited, and I mean, we'll see how they handle it.
Well, that's the flip side to living in interesting times. We also live in very exciting times from a technology marketing perspective. There's a lot of cool things happening, a lot of new tools opening up.
And if you're interested, if you've seen any of this stuff and you're interested and you want to get a second opinion, or if you've got questions, because this was a little bit more technical today, reach out.
Yeah.
Feel free to reach out.
Yeah, if anything we cover in any of these videos feels relevant to your business, I would encourage you to book a free strategy session with one of our experts.
Yeah.
We'll take the time to get to know your business, develop a plan that actually makes sense for you, and we'll answer your burning questions so that you can actually move forward with confidence and clarity. If that sounds impactful, then book a strategy session with us. And in the meantime, thanks for watching.
We'll see you soon.